The envelope was thin, but it had weight. Grey paper. Slightly rough at the edges. Stamped with the seal of the Municipal Housing Authority. A typed return address. A date. No greeting. No congratulations. Just instruction. For 11 years, the family's name had existed inside a filing cabinet in an office they rarely saw. Typed on a form. Stamped twice. Updated when their second child was born. Moved forward occasionally. Never far enough. They had applied when they married. At the time, they were told to register early, attach proof of employment, and wait. Several years, the clerk said, as if years were a reasonable measurement for a room with a door. The first year felt temporary. They slept on a fold-out sofa in a relative's apartment. Their belongings fit inside 2 suitcases and a wooden crate that doubled as a nightstand. They told themselves it was a phase. By the 3rd year, they had a child. The space did not change. The family did. A crib appeared where a chair once stood. Laundry hung along a curtain rod stretched across a corner. Toys were stored inside kitchen drawers at night. By the 5th year, they were reassigned to a shared apartment. 2 families. 1 kitchen. 1 bathroom. A narrow corridor lined with shoes and winter coats. Every movement required coordination. Every sound traveled. The kitchen had an unwritten schedule. Boiling water before the morning shift. Frying potatoes after 6. Washing dishes quickly because someone else needed the sink. You learn to measure time not by clocks, but by footsteps in the hallway. Privacy became procedural. When you dressed, you faced the wall. When you argued, you lowered your voice. When you wanted silence, you waited for the other family to leave. The waiting list did not disappear. It simply became background noise, like plumbing behind concrete. Then, on an ordinary weekday morning, the envelope appeared. It was delivered without ceremony. Slipped under the door. No knock lingered. Inside was a letter written in administrative language. Allocation approved. Block 47. Stairwell C. Apartment 48. Report within 5 working days to sign acceptance and receive key. Failure to appear may result in reassignment. That final sentence did not sound threatening. It sounded procedural, which made it heavier. The housing office occupied the ground floor of a concrete administrative building that looked identical to other buildings designed to manage life. Flat facade. Narrow windows. A flagpole with no decoration. Inside, fluorescent lighting flattened every surface. Beige walls. Metal benches bolted to the floor. A notice board filled with typed regulations beneath cracked plastic. People sat quietly holding similar envelopes. Some couples. Some elderly. Some holding children who did not understand why the room felt tense. No one celebrated. A mechanical number board clicked forward above the counter. When their number appeared, they stood and approached the glass partition. Behind it, a clerk retrieved a thick folder without making eye contact. Employment verification. Household composition. Confirmation of prior residence. Eligibility category. The clerk slid each page forward and tapped the signature lines with a pencil. Sign here. Initial here. Acknowledge state ownership. Acknowledge maintenance regulations. Acknowledge obligation to report changes in family size. Each signature transformed waiting into compliance. Then the key appeared. Small metal. Cold. Numbered. Attached to a piece of cardboard with an official stamp. It was not handed to them. It was placed on the counter like a tool issued from storage. The exchange lasted less than a minute. Outside, Block 47 waited. Concrete slabs stacked into geometric repetition. Balconies aligned like grid lines. Windows identical in proportion and spacing. From a distance, the complex looked efficient. From closer, it felt endless. The key opened apartment 48. It also opened the structure that had decided where they would live. The first thing you noticed inside the building was the sound. Footsteps echoed longer than they should. A door closed somewhere above and the vibration traveled through the stairwell walls. Water rushed through vertical pipes hidden behind concrete panels, then stopped abruptly. Even silence felt shared. The stairwell smelled of damp cement and cigarette smoke. The paint along the lower half of the walls had darkened from decades of hands brushing against it. A single exposed bulb hung above the landing, casting flat, uneven light that did not create shadows, only clarity. Every door looked the same. Same color. Same metal handle. Same narrow peephole. Same number plate screwed into identical positions. Apartment 48 opened into a corridor that made decisions for you. Kitchen on the left. Living room ahead. 2 bedrooms branching from the central space. Bathroom positioned near the shared plumbing shaft that ran vertically through the building. Nothing in the layout suggested preference. It suggested optimization. The layout did not ask who you were. It asked how many square meters you required. The building itself had begun far from this stairwell. Concrete panels were poured in factories on the outskirts of the city. Steel reinforcement inserted at predetermined intervals. Window frames produced in standardized dimensions so they would fit every opening without adjustment. Electrical conduits embedded into the panels before transport. Each slab was manufactured to match a blueprint that did not change from one block to the next. The blueprint never met the family. It calculated them. Panels were stacked, loaded onto trucks, and delivered to construction sites where cranes lifted them into place. Entire sections of housing rose in weeks. Stairwells assembled like segments of a machine. Construction became arithmetic. Units per quarter. Square meters per district. Deadlines measured against 5-year plans. Housing shortages were calculated, then addressed with volume. Across Eastern Europe, prefabricated housing programs reshaped cities. In East Germany, Plattenbau complexes expanded outward in symmetrical repetition. In Poland, vast estates grew at the edges of industrial centers, turning open land into grids of concrete. From above, the neighborhoods resembled patterns drawn with a ruler. Blocks positioned to maximize efficiency of roads and utility lines. Courtyards inserted at regular intervals. Schools and small state shops integrated into the layout according to planning formulas. Uniform housing simplified everything. Standard measurement simplified budgeting. Identical materials simplified procurement. Repetitive layout simplified maintenance. When every apartment used the same radiator valve, a single replacement part could serve thousands. When wiring followed identical routes, electricians knew exactly where to cut into walls. Variation slowed systems. Repetition accelerated them. Inside apartment 48, the logic was visible in small details. The kitchen cabinets were functional but uniform. The countertop material felt durable in a practical way, resistant to wear, indifferent to design. Electrical outlets sat at the same height they did in every other unit in the block. The heating system was centralized. When it functioned properly, it was invisible. When it failed collectively. An entire building could experience cold at the same time. An entire district could wait for repair together. Thin walls transmitted more than sound. They transmitted schedules. Radios, arguments, footsteps, plumbing, each apartment existed within acoustic reach of the next. The door was yours to close. The structure was not yours to alter. Balconies lined the facade in repeating columns. Laundry hung from railings, creating small personal variations against identical concrete. Curtains differed. Flower pots appeared. But the underlying grid remained fixed. Children played in courtyards positioned according to blueprints drawn years earlier by planners who never met them. Parents leaned against identical railings after long shifts in factories that had also been built according to plan. The apartment was real. It had walls. It had warmth. It had space. But the deeper design was not architectural. It was administrative. The key did not unlock uniqueness. It unlocked a unit within a system designed for replication. Long before the key arrived, the waiting list had already shaped the family's life. It influenced when they married, when they had children, where they worked, how long they stayed in temporary arrangements that were never meant to last. The waiting list did not appear on public walls. It was not posted in newspapers. But everyone knew it existed. It operated quietly, inside offices, inside factories, inside administrative committees that translated scarcity into sequence. Applications were often submitted through workplaces. Factories maintained housing committees. State enterprises compiled internal lists. Supervisors confirmed employment stability. Local authorities coordinated allocations according to construction progress and priority categories. Priority existed because scarcity demanded order. Engineers, specialized technicians, certain industrial workers, party members and officials. Family size affected ranking. Newly married couples were registered early. The birth of a child could shift a file forward. Transfers between cities required reapplication, which meant time reset in a new queue. Files accumulated in metal cabinets. Folders thickened with stamps. Some families waited 8 years. Some 12. Some longer. Temporary living arrangements adapted to the delay. Young couples remained in their parents' apartments well into their 30s. Rooms were subdivided using wardrobes and curtains. Furniture was positioned not for comfort, but for separation. Privacy became architecture improvised from objects. In shared apartments, coexistence required negotiation without confrontation. You learned your neighbor's habits because you depended on them. You learned their routines because the bathroom was shared. You measured your morning by their footsteps and your evening by the sound of their door closing. Arguments were kept brief. Complaints were lowered to whispers. Life compressed into scheduled fragments. The state presented housing as a universal right. And in many cases, it delivered roofs and walls at a scale unmatched by previous decades. But universal provision did not eliminate waiting. When construction lagged behind demand, the list expanded. When materials were delayed, files paused. When quotas shifted, categories were recalculated. Petitions could be written. Supervisors could be consulted. Occasionally, a committee could review a special case. But allocation remained centralized. There was no public marketplace of available apartments. No listings pinned to bulletin boards offering choice. No negotiation over location or layout. The system decided when your turn arrived. And when it did, the letter did not offer options. It offered instruction. Appear. Sign. Accept. Refusal existed in theory. But refusal carried risk. Declining an assigned apartment could mark a file as uncooperative. A file marked uncooperative moved more slowly, or not at all. Gratitude was not demanded verbally. It was embedded behaviorally. You signed. You accepted. You adjusted. Repairs followed the same logic. If the elevator malfunctioned, the request entered a queue. If the boiler failed, an entire building waited for a centralized repair team. If water pressure dropped, it dropped for everyone. Collective infrastructure produced collective delays. The system did reduce visible homelessness. Entire neighborhoods emerged where none had existed before. Families that once shared single rooms gained separate apartments. But dependence shifted upward. Your address was recorded. Your household composition recorded. Your employment recorded. Your key number recorded. Every transfer of access was documented. The key was not a reward for saving money. It was not the result of negotiation. It was confirmation that the administrative process had reached your file. It marked arrival. And it marked placement. During the same decades, in Western Europe, keys circulated through a different mechanism. You searched for apartments. You compared neighborhoods. You visited multiple properties. You rejected some. You negotiated prices. You applied for mortgages. A key in that system represented a contract initiated by the buyer. The transaction began with personal choice and ended with legal transfer. Variation followed naturally. Developers competed for buyers. Floor plans differed. Building materials reflected budget tiers. Neighborhoods acquired reputation shaped by demand. Ownership created leverage. If you wanted to renovate, you renovated. If you wanted to sell, you sold. If you wanted to move, you listed. The key symbolized autonomy within a market structure. In the planned system, the state did not compete. The state allocated. Housing was framed as universal access, delivered through mass construction and centralized coordination. And in measurable terms, it succeeded in expanding supply rapidly. But universality removed negotiation. When the family stepped into apartment 48 for the first time, they did what families everywhere do. They measured walls. They placed furniture. They decided which room would become the children's bedroom. Curtains were hung to soften light against identical window frames. Shelves were installed where the blueprint had not provided storage. A rug covered a section of uniform flooring. Personal objects accumulated in a standardized space. Neighbors introduced themselves in stairwells that looked like every other stairwell in the district. Children mapped the courtyard with games that ignored planning diagrams. Conversations formed between balconies separated by concrete panels. Life adapted to structure. The building did not collapse under its own logic. It functioned. It sheltered. It stabilized. But the meaning of the key did not change. It was not proof of ownership. It was proof of permission. Permission to occupy a space allocated through a waiting list. Permission to live within walls designed by planners. Permission documented in files stored inside cabinets that could be opened by others. The metal of the key was indistinguishable from any other key. Cold. Functional. Replaceable. What distinguished it was the system behind it. If ownership transfers authority downward, allocation retains authority above. The door could be closed from the inside. The structure remained external. The family in apartment 48 built memories within concrete boundaries. Birthdays were celebrated. Arguments were held. Silence settled at night. From the outside, the building appeared identical to its neighbors. From the inside, it held individual lives. But the key never ceased to belong, in principle, to the authority that issued it. It opened a door. And it revealed that even at home, the system remained the landlord.